Call the meeting of the zoning committee to order Vital Texas at 6:30 on December 1st.
Tammy McDonald, Becky Rector,
Here.
Alan Zwicky,
Here. Patrick Garcia.
Here.
Zamza.
Okay. We're going to approve the minutes from September 15th, 2025. Do I hear a motion to accept or deny?
I'll move that we accept them.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Open the public hearing at 6:31. Conduct a public hearing concerning a final plat of Pecan Grove Apartments establishing lot one, comprised of 3.634 acres, situated in the J matter survey number 443, abstract 572, and survey number 442, abstract 573, being the same tract of land in the 1 public record of Pasco County.
All right, Chairman and Commission members, so the first public hearing we have on tonight is for this final plat of Pecan Grove Apartments. So these are the apartments that basically behind City Hall here, next to the shopping right here, right behind us. So they approached us earlier this year and submitted the plat for consideration. Basically, what happened is the property as it currently sits is made up about 3 or 4 different tracts of land, and the buildings currently sit on those various buildings. And so what they came to us as a structure over there that needs to be demolished. Unfortunately, if they were to demolish that, they would have left an accessory structure on one of the lots and no primary structure on that lot. And so we told them we could go through a variance process and not have to plat the property, but honestly, in the long run, to clean up the property, the best probably pursue would be to plat the property. And so that is what they got done. And so there's some it's all about requirements as far as the subdivision ordinance is concerned. Everything was approved, so it's really just amending their existing to consolidate those 3 or 4 lots into one lot. No changes as far as the structures, not adding any additional property, just making it one lot instead of.
So they can tear down the one that needs to be demolished.
That's correct.
Questions?
There are any.
Favor or against?
Curious question, how would that, is that gonna, being it's going into one plat, will the overall property value change on that entire new plat? Or is it going to stay the same, with the combining of all of those, individual plats that are done?
It should.
Should.
It's just more of a serial. So it shouldn't have any bearing on.
The building is gonna be demolished.
So there's a mobile home over there or an electric home that's in the area of the change public roads. So,
But if we get into this where you go through next to the, should I get into it, that's how you get into this one. Or will it change any of the other, will it change any other entrance service or?
No.
It's still set primary?
Yep. Literally just moving lot lines.
Public hearing.
Well, you close this one.
Maybe closest on, number of apartments. 6:35, open public hearing. Conduct a public hearing concerning amending the comprehensive plan. Split specifically the future land use plan.
All right, so I'm sure this is why everybody's here, and I got calls today from it as well, but basically during the most recent legislative session, a bill was passed and signed by the governor that basically adds new requirements to municipalities across the state in reference to where we allow manufacturing. And so basically the main objective of the bill is that if you have residential areas that you treat them the same because manufacturing is resident. So a lot of cities and what our attorney is also suggesting is it doesn't say that you have to allow it every single building, but you can identify areas in town. You have to identify somewhere where it would be allowed by right. This is not a manufactured home park that we're talking about. We're talking about individual lots where manufactured homes can be built.
This on this is future builds, not current, correct?
Well,
The way it reads future.
so I'll get it.
Okay.
So what the bill again is trying to do is basically allow it. So again, speaking with our attorney, he suggests that we go ahead and amend our zoning ordinance to allow for an additional zoning district and basically call out certain areas where we would feel as a city comfortable having individual lots be manufactured homes. Doesn't mean they have to put manufactured homes there, but it would allow it by right. If you are aware, the city has a manufactured home commission that operates very similar to this board. They only hear maybe for the manufactured home placement outside the manufactured home park, right? And so that would, in this situation, if somebody went ahead and moved forward with this, which again, we're legally required to do by next September, those areas in question would not have to go through the process of the manufactured home commission. All they would have to do is come in, get the proper permits for building or placing that manufactured home, but they wouldn't have an extra approval step. And that goes in front of y'all or in that manufactured home commission and then also the city council. So that process would be eliminated by doing this. It was basically what we call in this industry a use by right in those areas. So the process really starts at this future land use map because obviously it's a land use that we've never contemplated. And so we do have to legally go in and change basically the allowance for us to go in and adopt a new zoning district. Well, that starts after the future land use map. And so that's what tonight is being announced today to city council. And so under that scenario, it does basically when we get to the part of the zoning of properties in question, then it would allow any future resident or property owner to go ahead and move in a manufactured home in those areas. And it wouldn't preclude them from building a normal site-built single-family home. It just would give them the option in those particular areas. In speaking with city council and kind of talking through this, so this is the existing future land use plan. This is part of our comprehensive plan. It's just a small portion of that comp plan. That comp plan does expire in 2025, so it's expired this year. City council is actively working on updating the comp plan. So this is all we can go off of currently. What we've done is we've highlighted, and they're highlighted in red, and that's probably not the best color, because obviously commercial in some areas are already
Right.
highlighted in red. But you see the area kind of off of Wisdom Road, going outside of town there, to the north, into Lido. And that's basically from where Lake Street, then turns into Wisdom, and goes up. So that's where we took that. We already get a lot of requests for manufactured homes in that area, so we felt like it was a natural kind of fit for that particular area. And then also on the west side of town, in our coal mine subdivision, we've had a lot more requests out there for manufactured homes. And so we felt like with that, we felt like that would be a good area. We've had 3 this year already for various lots in that section of town. So that's where we wanted to go ahead and identify. So what we would do, again, if this is approved by council, is we would amend this particular comprehensive plan, the future land use map, to reflect those areas as kind of a residential mixed, right, and reference the eventual R4 zoning district. So that's a newly zoned district that we would go in and we would create specifically for this purpose, and it would just be in those areas identified that we would go in. So that'll come at a later date. That'll have to come before this board as well. We'll have to send notification out to individual property owners. But ultimately, that would be the second step of this process. So I know there's probably a lot of questions by y'all as well as the members of the public. What I would ask is that we follow the proper public hearing procedures, open it up, they can ask their questions, concerns, anything like that. We'll close the public hearing, and then when we get to the action item, I can answer any of those questions or anything like that. So that way we'll keep it. That was the goal. Then for anybody that wants to speak, they'll come up. Anybody wants to speak on it, and opening it up, 6:42.
Question, come on, I'm sorry. Ronald Rose, a quick question though, with regards to how it's currently zoned, what is the difference of bringing it up to go ahead and identify these plots or these lands areas already as, for mixed use? Isn't it already defined as a residential piece of property? And as a residential, how does it differentiate between the two? Additionally, with how is it defined, just based on requests that have been recently submitted, to go ahead and have manufactured homes put in there? Has that been the only consideration? And how does this all materialize to a standard that has not been voted on by the state as of yet? Isn't it kind of anticipating jumping the gun with something that has not been officially mandated by the state to go ahead and develop a plat, manufactured home or mixed use? I guess would be a better statement to a standard that has not yet been already identified or voted on by the state.
We'll leave it up to everybody else, and then I'll address those when we get to the action item.
Okay, great.
Yep.
I guess I don't quite understand, is this gonna do away with, if this is adjoining to your property, you're not gonna be notified that there's being a request for a mobile home being put adjoining your property or within a certain distance of it?
I'll answer that in the action.
Well, the only reason I say, I mean, you gotta realize a manufactured home doesn't have nearly the value of a bricks and sticks home. And the time you take a exemption off of it, it's really not going to bring in any tax money. You know, I mean, if you really look at it, I realize that it is another form of housing. I realize that, and I'm not disparagingly speaking about it, but just, common sense wise, it does deteriorate. I know if you go out, 3175, that subdivision out there, it's got mixed use, mobile homes and homes. And I think if you look at the evaluations on those properties out there, you look at the foreclosure rate and everything else on it, it hasn't been a good, good mix for our community. It is in our city, within our city jurisdiction. Anyway.
Anybody else want to speak? Okay, close this, public hearing session. Page 46. And I'm gonna open the session, take action. And this is 46. Consideration and possible action to recommend approval or denial to the city council concerning a final plat of Pine Grove Apartments establishing lot 1 comprised of 3.634 acres situated in the J. Mathers Survey number 443, abstract 572, and survey 442, abstract 573, being the same tract of land conveyed in the Northeast Lead 40 and document 21.422, official public record of Natchitoches County, Texas.
I'll make a recommendation.
Do I hear a second?
I second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed?
Aye.
3, 4, 1 against. Ayes have it. Next item is consideration and possible action to recommend approval or denial to the city council concerning amendments to the comprehensive plan, specifically the future land use plan.
All right, so, first, it has been mandated by the states, and the Senate bill was passed, they're just giving us the facility for the first 2026 change. We want to make sure that that's interested in. The legislature passed the bill, the governor signed the bill, it's just we have to make the change and show it somewhere very specific, it says we have to show it on the zone map somewhere. So this is a requirement by the state, unfortunately, we have to do something. Again, we agree that it doesn't make a lot of sense to just allow it carte blanche across the city. So that's why the law currently as it does allow for us to kind of carve out sections of town. So that way we can kind of minimize the impact, right, that it could happen. So that's why we brought in and identified these two areas. So most of this area, well, both in this section, so I want to make a distinction. The future land use map is not zoning. The zoning of the properties in question, all of them, including in coal mine and the area off of Winston Road that we're talking about, are all zoned currently as single-family residential. We do not allow a manufactured home currently to be placed anywhere unless it's in a manufactured home park, unless they go through the manufactured home commission and get a recommendation to council, and council ultimately approves that, then you can place it anywhere in the city. The only restriction that we have in addition to that is we allow for anyone that's on Main Street to place it one time. But the idea was that we want those to obviously change out to commercial over time, and so that would be the other restriction that they won't allow it after that one time replacement. So the future land use map kind of contemplates, and again, this is a part of the comp plan. So the comp plan is very much a a guiding principle, right? It's supposed to help plan for future growth and plan for aspects, that we be looking 5-10 years down the road. Again, this is expired technically this year, so it's a little hard to do that now with this particular document. But until we have a new future land use map and a new comp plan, this is what we have to go off of. And so all of those can be single family. What again the bill says is that if you're going to allow a single family home there, you also have to allow a manufactured home because they are residents. So that's why again we wanted to carve out certain areas where we feel like we're already getting those requests. We do have some requests here in about throughout the city, but generally since I've been here in the last 2 years, I've probably had 5 or 6 on Wisdom Road. Like I said, this year alone, we've had 3 out of the 4 subdivisions. So that's kind of where we have the basis. Council could choose anywhere. And on top of that, council, even after the zoning district is adopted, right, that's the second step of this future, is that once we have that, anybody could request also to rezone the property for that down the road. Notifications would go out to those individuals. So I'll speak a little bit about the notification process. Right now, if they're going to go to the Manufactured Home Commission, we just like here, if we're going to rezone the property, they get notified within 200 feet of their property that, hey, a request has been made to place a manufactured home. If these areas are zoned to this new zoning district, technically that requirement would go away for those individuals because it does become a use by right. However, anywhere else in town that they wanted to place a manufactured home, they would still have to go through the Manufactured Home Commission. They would still get notified, and residents would have an opportunity to obviously argue at that point. But unfortunately, in some ways, our hands are tied, so we're trying to minimize again that impact of our hands being tied by placing it in areas where we feel like we're already seeing that trend happen. Hopefully that answers both of your questions.
So just to clarify,
Yeah. Does that make
this would
sense?
only, yeah, I'm so sorry.
You're good.
I got caught in traffic. Everyone else would get a letter saying that they're moving a manufactured home in, except those areas.
Except those areas. So if you once that is, so again, this is step number 1, but we're gonna amend the comp plan, and then here in January, February, we'll work with this group as well as council to go ahead and adopt regulations for this new zoning district, right? Once those have been rezoned, and they'll still get notification of that rezoning because we have to send those out. That's still a requirement there. So once that is rezoned, those areas going forward, if say if I had a lot that falls in that zoning district, I can come in tomorrow and get a building permit to move it, but that's it. That's all the process would be. They wouldn't have to notify anybody else. However, over by like your house or wherever they wanted to put a manufactured home in, yes, they would have to send out notification. They'd have a meeting in front of the Manufactured Home Commission that would get a recommendation and go to council, and council would have final say.
Okay. And if you haven't read this bill, it's important to read the bill. This bill was going through, I fought it. And I tried to get everybody that supports us to fight it. And they tried, but we lost. So them I don't like it, but I think them wanting to zone these 2 areas, which have been a lot of mobile home requests lately, that's their way of saying, okay, we've got part of this law in here, this bill in our plan.
The people that live
Unfortunately.
in that zone right now, can they protest it, or like, what's the step?
Good.
So what's going to happen is ultimately we're going to amend this. This doesn't necessarily change anything on the zoning map. Again, land use different than zoning.
Yeah.
Right? So what's going to happen is I'm gonna work with our attorneys to come up with the zoning language, right, for this new zoning district. We will amend that'll have to come before you all. We'll amend the overall zoning ordinance to include the language of what we go in there. It's going to include setbacks. It's going to, all the usual stuff that we see on any other zoning district, right? So that's the language that's gonna, dictate what can be done there. That would be step number 2. Step 3 will be actually, just like we did around the park area, where we went in and a lot of those were zoned as commercial, and they probably shouldn't have been, they were already residents. There's no reason to have commercial around the park there in certain areas. We went ahead and sent out notifications specifically for that property, and everybody around them, and that 200 feet, and they got notification of that timing change. At that time, that's when, we would probably see people in here saying, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? I would encourage for those people, and hopefully, as this is more discussed, before we get to that part, that people will kind of understand, but I think we're gonna have to identify somewhere on the map. So council's gonna have to come up with something. It can't just be like 2 lots, right? I mean, we got an area in town that we feel is appropriate. So, yes, they can protest. I don't know if ultimately council will, how they will.
This bill kind of holds their feet to the fire to do something. They're just doing it in advance.
Well, I mean, I think Wisdom Road is definitely a good plus spot because I've been out there and I mean, I know that there's being,
We get a lot of
yes,
requests.
I see
Coal
that.
mine just had 2 or 3 requested.
We've had 3 in coal mine this year. There's probably a couple before that. So, it's very common out there.
There were some already out there. Anyway, in coal mine.
Yes.
Some out there, that is a matter of looking at.
Yeah, you're right, they do.
Getting those out of there and replacing.
Yes.
with-
Which it would allow them to do without,
Really upgrade the whole.
yeah,
You would.
and it would allow them to do that without, with this in place, it would allow them to do it without any additional steps.
Approvals.
Right?
Required.
It may not, it may say there, but
How much time are you thinking, like, this is
yeah, so for us, it's probably, it's probably I would say a 60 to 90 day process, in all honesty, between getting notifications out, like depending on when we get that application to place it, right? Figuring out, getting all the required documents and everything, getting it off the manufactured home commission, and then ultimately getting it on the city council. So I would say probably, I mean, maybe 45 to 60, but probably 60 to 90.
as well as amounts of personnel time?
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, I will say that unfortunately, the way this legislature likes to work, this is a trend that, this is a nice little nugget they've stuck out there. And my fear is that going forward in 2 years, when we have legislature again, and they'll look, we're gonna have issues with it, and they'll try to amend it even further. I hope that doesn't happen. We'll continue to obviously fight that, for the same reason that we brought up about property values and everything else, but, this is typical of the legislature to kind of erode our ability to do things.
It's all within the city limits as well.
Yeah, so I think that, in all honesty, that red line goes a little too high, on the north half. So if you see kind of the old black line, that's where the city limits actually stops. That way over there is PJ, that eventually could be annexed, so it really is not as big of a question.
Because they could go out Wisdom Road, there's quite a few regular homes built out.
Nice
Yeah.
homes
If you
too,
go
yeah.
out there,
Yeah.
it's
And,
surprising,
and they would not be precluded from doing so, it just gives them the ability to do manufacturing if they so chose to do so. And that's why we're kind of calling it that, mixed residential in a way. I mean, we'll figure out what that ultimately sounds like, looks like on the paper, like.
And see, the thought on that, I do like, how you're talking about, it does eliminate work, as far as new requests, but yeah, I really like to see a little bit more to where designate possible existing homes, manufactured homes, just like we stated, easier to upgrade or update them, possibly replace them. But as far as that bill, I didn't see anything in it, but is there any kind of minimum, I guess, acreage or area? Okay.
No, it just, I don't
Yeah.
think, I think for the letter of the law, I mean, speaking with our be appropriate to go, oh, we're just gonna go rezone like 2 or 3 lots here, right? I mean, that you really gotta show an area in question, but no, it doesn't say it's gotta be X amount of lots, X amount of acres.
No,
So that's what I'm saying. I'm
very open-ended.
It is very open-ended. It is, unfortunately, we're trying to take a stab at it. I mean, we very well could, middle of next year, they could come out with something that, puts more guidance in it, you can do adjust it, that part of it. But things have to be somewhere on that sector. So we're just trying to, I've been instructed by council to kind of push it forward.
yes.
Okay, any more questions? Do I have a motion to accept or deny the recommendation to the city council for the amendment of the comprehensive plan, specifically the future land use plan?
Before the motion is made, I want to be clear, like, you can suggest other areas, this is at the level where we can do that. So I just want to be clear, if there's any conditions or recommendations you want to make to council, this is the time to do so.
Yeah, I definitely suggest not necessarily future sites to lessen legwork. And I understand, it is paperwork, but yeah, I would like to see it in existing manufactured home areas.
So the trailer park. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, and I would say dense areas that already have approval in current manufactured houses. If we can, find an area that has an excessive amount or majority amount rather, and
Like the one out
we can go ahead and
City
and
that you're
state
talking
that.
about.
I will tell you, one of the reasons we didn't do like the existing local, manufacturing park off of 35, right, was because council had conversation and discussions with 24 and where there was a request to make that, so they are actually zoned commercial. And so to make legally conforming to the zoning district, there was a request to place it in the R3 zoning district, which is specific to manufacturing parks.
Yes.
And the council denied it. And so, based on those decisions, identify that area already in question. But I understand what you're saying. If there's a high concentration of other areas that already have it, that makes sense to make.
Yes, that was my thoughts on there.
And actually, these two areas have a higher concentration of.
Definitely on Wisdom Road, for sure.
Yeah.
Any more questions? Do I hear a motion to accept or deny? I make the motion that we accept it.
I'll second it.
All those in favor? Say aye. All those opposed?
Nay.
3-4.
I'm sorry, I have to go with yay. Yes.
Okay, 3-4, and 1 against. Okay, motion for adjournment,
I make a motion to adjourn.
give a second.
Second it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Ayes have it.